Hey there, I'm your host Zoe, and this is part 2 of our equipment system series. In today's video, we'll be creating the wardrobe actor. So with that said, let's begin. Let's start by going into our content drawer and into our equipment system. In here, we want to create a new blueprint class, which is going to be an actor. And let's call it BP underscore wardrobe. And let's open it up. Now in here in the viewport, we want to add a arm. I believe it's called spring arm. And let's rename it to our wardrobe arm underscore arm. And while having this arm selected, we then want to add something called a scene capture component 2D. And this will be responsible for capturing our player character. So let's also name it wardrobe capture. Maybe underscore will do nicely. Okay. With that, first things first, select your arm and we want to do collision test off. What this does is if you're close to a wall, it's not going to block your camera. And for the wardrobe capture, we want to scroll down, and when you see your primitive render mode, we want to do use show only list. And then we'll give it only the actors we wanted to capture. So even before we go ahead and do that, let's go into our content drawer and right click, go ahead and create something called a render target. In here, we want to call this RT underscore our wardrobe. Open this up and we'll make this 1024 by 1024. Now this simply is your resolution and how high of quality is your image. So you could even go higher, but I feel like 1024 will do for me. So that's that. With that, then you want to right click, go to create a material, and this material will be used for our UI. So I'll call it RTM for render target material underscore wardrobe. Let's open this up. In here, let's drag this out a little bit. We want to click on that, change it to be a user interface, and for blend mode, we'll make it translucent. So RGB will go to our final color, but A is the opacity, so we'll invert it. We'll do 1 minus, and we'll plug this guy into opacity. Go ahead, apply and save it, and that's our material done then. Once again, click on your capture, and for the texture target, we want to do RT underscore wardrobe. So just the render target we created a second ago. Compile and save it. Next, let's go ahead and open up our event graph. And in here, we want to create a custom event called open wardrobe. And every time this is called, we'll get our wardrobe capture and do show only actor components. And this node will only show the actors that we have selected, which in our case is the player character. In actor, we drag this in here as a input. And this will be our target actor. So let's name it as such, target actor. Okay. Now you want here to create your user interface next. So what we can do to make this simpler is let's create a new folder called UI, and we'll just mark out how this UI is going to look like. So user widget, call it WB underscore wardrobe. We'll simply add a canvas panel and then just the layout. So let's search for a border. You can slap this anywhere on the screen, but let's do it in the middle. And for now, we'll just do something like 400 and 400, just so we see it there, and let's make it black. Okay, let's compile and save it. So back in our wardrobe, we then want to create this UI. So create widget. And the widget in question is our wardrobe widget, like so. We then want to promote this to a variable. Let's call it WB underscore wardrobe, like so. And next we'll add it to the viewport. Right. Then what we want to do is we want to disable the input for our player character and enable it for this wardrobe actor. So what we can actually do is if we go to our content drawer to make things easier for ourselves in the future, let's right click and go ahead to blueprint and create a blueprint function library. I'll call this BP underscore universal functions, open this up, and we'll call it get hero, which is going to be our player character. We then want to get our player character and we want to cast it to whatever a character is. So in my case, this will be the third person character, like so. We then want to do a return node. Whoops, if I can spell this correctly. The return node, and we'll return the blue pin, naming it player. And we can also go ahead and make this a pure function. Since we're not changing any information, we're only reading the data. So let's go ahead, compile and save that. And back in our wardrobe actor, what we can do is we get hero, and you can see it here, BP underscore universal functions. And we also want to get our player controller, and we'll do disable input. And the target is our player controller, and the actual target is the get hero, which is referencing our own character. We then want to enable the input for here, so for this actor. So enable input. Once again, player controller is our player controller there. Okay, so this should be good for us. Let's go ahead and comment this code, which is our creates the wardrobe widget. So like we create one, we then want to destroy it or undo what we just did. So we'll do custom event. We'll do close wardrobe. And in here, essentially, we do the opposite. So we get our widget. We want to do a validated get. And if it is valid, so it's on the screen, well, in that case, we want to remove it. So we no longer see it. Remove from parent. And then we want to set it to be nothing. So set like that. And we then want to remove the control for this actor and enable it again for our player character. So like we did previously, we can steal this node. We can steal both of these nodes actually. Plug it in here. Now the disable input is for self. So this actor here, and the enable input is for our player character once again. And at the very end of this, we want to destroy this whole actor like that. So make sure this is last. And right, let's comment this code. Destroys the widget and this actor. Okay, let's also show bubble when zoomed. Nice little feature. Okay. Now, the next thing we want to do is let's go to our content drawer, go to our third person character inputs, and we want to create a new input action to open and close this widget. So input action, we'll call it IA underscore wardrobe. Let's save it, go into our IMC underscore default and create a new mapping. Find your wardrobe, input action, and then create whatever keys you want. Now, I'm going to go with the I key. I'll also go with the tab key, and I'll go with the C key for character. Like so. Okay, let's save that then. And back in here, what we want to do is we'll call our input action we just made. So IA underscore wardrobe. I'll even put it at the top here. Let's get rid of this guy and this guy. And when this is triggered, we want to close this widget. So we'll call our close wardrobe on started. And we can comment it closes the widget, let's say. And also bubble it when zoomed. Okay. So with that done then, let's compile and save. Next, we wanted to create something called a component. So we'll go to our content drawer. If we right click and go to blueprint class, we'll find something called a actor component. Now click on this and we'll call this BPC for blueprint component underscore wardrobe. And we want to open this up. In here, we want to right click and create a custom event called get wardrobe. And every time this is created, we want to spawn in this actor component we made, which is called BP underscore wardrobe. So we want to spawn that in. So create or not create, spawn actor from class. And the class we're spawning in is our BP underscore wardrobe actor, like so. Now for the spawn transform, we'll be getting the owner of this component. So in our case, our player character, and we'll do get actor transform, just like so. And we'll drag this into the spawn transform there. Now for the collision, we always want to spawn it no matter what. So always spawn, ignore collisions. Next would be a good idea to promote this to a variable. So we'll call it BP underscore wardrobe, like so. And at the very end, we want to call that event we made, which is called open wardrobe. And again, the target actor is our get owner. So this is the guy that will be rendering. Okay, and let's name this as well. So we'll call it creates the wardrobe actor. And let's make it bubble. Whoops. That's true. Okay. And in here, we then want to get our input action as well. So IA underscore wardrobe. And we want to call this get wardrobe. So I'll go at the top, do this, and get wardrobe on started. Okay, so we should be able to test this out now. And before we actually do, we need to add this component to our player. So third person character, blueprints, open up the player. And in here on the components tab, we'll do BPC underscore wardrobe, compile and save it. So now we have all the logic that our component has. And if we went to play and press I, boom, we get this on the screen. Now we can't move around or anything, but if I press I again, it goes off the screen and we have control again. So this is exactly what we want. Next, we'll go ahead and design our wardrobe widget. So let's go to our content drawer, equipment system, and UI, and let's open it up. For the border for size X, I'll do 1400, and this is exactly what I had in the intro. So that's what I'll do, but of course, feel free to play around to suit your liking. So that's our first border. I'll name it border underscore frame to keep track of everything. And we then want to add a second border to this. And we can call this our border underscore background. Okay. Next, what I want to do is maybe for the padding, let's do 10. And if we select the very back one, we can add a color to it. Now I have one saved on the left-hand side. So I'll paste it in. If you want to copy it, here it is on the screen. Press OK. And for the one here for the background, I'll take this, copy that. And once again, if you want to copy it, it should be brush color. There we are, right here. This is it. Okay, so that's the basic layout without any gradients just yet. We then want to grab a horizontal box onto this. So drag that into your background there. We can give it a padding of 0. And into this border, we'd want to add 3 vertical boxes. So let's get vertical box. We can paste them in, select all of them, do fill, and this will fill everything else for you. For the one on the left, which is going to be our character sheet, we'll do, for the fill, we want it to be 0.8. For our character border, we also want this to be 0.8. And we can leave this as 0.1. Or, yeah. Then for our middle one, we want to add a overlay to this. So grab an overlay for yourselves. And before we go ahead any further, let's also name these before we lose track, or I lose track. Box underscore left column. We'll then name this our box underscore middle column. And this one will name our box underscore right column. Okay, so for our middle column, we have our overlay. Let's fill this out. Padding 0, perfect. And onto this, we then want to add something called a scale box. And this essentially will just make sure that even though we have a square image, it will be filled out in this rectangular box. So in stretch, we go scale to fit and we change it to scale to fill. And in this box, we then grab our image, drag it into here. And for the brush, we get our render target material like so. Let's also name it img_wardrobe. Perfect. And with that done, let's go ahead and create a gradient for our background here. So to the content drawer we go, right click, new folder, MUI, for materials UI. Let's open this up. And we'll create a material like so. Let's call it m_our wardrobe gradient. And we'll open this up. And like we did before, user interface and blend mode goes to translucent. We then want to right click and search for something called a generated, or maybe not even, radial gradient. There we go. Nice and simple. And we'll plug this into the final color. Hit apply, save. And if we click on our background, we can select a brush to give, and we'll do wardrobe gradient. And we can change, oh, we don't really have to change anything. It's all set up for us. Let's compile and save that and see how it looks on screen. If we hit play, boom, we get something like this. And of course, our player character is the wrong way around. So let's go ahead and fix that. So let's open up our content drawer, go into equipment system, BP_wardrobe, viewport, and let's select our arm. Press E to rotate it. We'll do -180. Now, if you want the exact setup like I had at the beginning, what we do for the target arm length is we set it to 120, I believe. Could be 140. Could be lying to you, but we'll do 120 for now. For rotation, we'll do 180. And for the location here, we'll do 60. And I believe this is something I had. Let's compile and save. And if we test this, yeah, this is more like of what we want. Now we of course can't rotate our character or zoom in or out. So let's go ahead and create these controls. Before we go ahead and create these controls, let's head back to our UI, and we just want to give the option to have our mouse on the screen. So in here on event construct, and we'll also get event destruct. What we'll do is we'll create two functions. We'll do show mouse cursor, and we'll do get a player controller. And from here, we'll do set show mouse cursor. And we'll have this ticked to be true, like that. And we then want to drag off this pin and do set input mode game and UI. Whoops. Game and UI. There we are. And for the focus, what we can do is we can do self. And with that said, let's go back to the designer, click on the root and make sure this is focusable. Let's compile that. And this is all we want in here. So we'll leave it at that. Then for the second one, we'll do hide mouse cursor. And we'll do the opposite. So we'll get our player controller. We then want to make sure it's valid, because when you quit the game, you'll get an error that it's not valid. So let's do that and do set show mouse cursor to be false. And then at the very end, we want to do game only. So it's back to its original form. Like that. And we then want to call these two functions on our construct and destruct. So bring this down, get this guy into here, and hide mouse cursor. That should be good. So let's compile and save and see what we get. Boom. Our mouse is on the screen. If we press, it goes away, but this will be for rotation. Awesome. So let's go ahead and create those controls. So into the content we go, and equipment system, pp_wardrobe we want. So in the event graph, one thing you might have not noticed, I'll show you this right now, is if we run and then press I, we get something like this. And of course, this is nothing as we want. So to fix this little issue, in here, we'll grab our event begin play. And what we want to do is we want to do a set timer by event. Now for the time, this is completely up to you. I found a value of 0.2 to work really well, but feel free to play around. Now for the event, we'll do custom event and we'll call this update actor location. And what we are doing essentially is we're comparing this actor's location to our player character's location. If they're not the same, it'll update. If they are, nothing will happen. So let's get the branch and do get actor transform. There we are. Copy that and let's do get hero and just plug this into get actor transform. Right, we'll do an equals, comparing those two values, plugging that into the branch. And at the very end, we want to do set actor transform like so. Now the target is ourselves, of course, and let's just get our player characters transform. Whoopa, like this. Okay, so now if we went to compile and save and tried running again and pressing our inventory, this does not work. Let's see why. What did I do here? Ah, this is meant to go on false. My bad, guys. My bad. And let's see. Play. Open this up and boom. This is what we get. Awesome. So it updates. Very nice. So let's go ahead and create these controls then. Let's scroll a bit down. And let's start by creating a variable called should rotate. So if our mouse is pressed, we'll rotate or we'll be able to rotate. If not, nothing happens. So let's get our left mouse button and we'll set this to be true if pressed and set this to be false if not pressed. And let's comment this allows rotation. Nice. And let's also bubble this. Next, we want to create a right mouse button to reset everything if we have moved our actor. So right mouse button. And what this will do is we'll get our spring arm and do a set relative location and rotation. Just like that. And these values are what you had at the very beginning. So in my case, like we've seen, I had 60. And for the Z, I had -180. And let's actually update this maybe. If I go to this, nope, spring arm, 60 -180, and I want 5 on the rotation on the y-axis. That's what I want. So in here then, we'll do 60 -180 and 5 on the y. Okay, and then for the arm again, we'll do set target arm length to be whatever value we had set. So in our case, this was 120. Let's just double check that. Yep, 120. Okay. And this resets camera to original location or to the starting location. And let's also bubble this. And next we want to create our mouse up and down. So we'll do mouse wheel up and we'll do mouse wheel down. Very nice. So for the mouse wheel up, we want to grab our arm again to get target arm length. And from here, I want to do a plus, or no, I want to do a minus, I think. We'll figure it out in a second. And we'll do -20. And for the arm here, we'll do set target arm length, like so. Pressed, we do this, and let's do zoom in. So compile and save and see what happens. If I go up, yeah, we zoom in. So awesome. A little bit too much. So we want to clamp this value as well. So let's do a clamp. Then plug that into there. Now for the clamp, it's up to you what the minimum and the maximum is. I think a minimum of 100 would do and a maximum of, let's say, I don't know, 180 would be nice. So we then want to copy this, paste it in here, and switch a few things around. Instead of minusing, we then do a plus. Once again, 20 into the value. And we should be able to name it zoom out like so. Whoop. Why is this not even? There we are. Okay. And I think it looks good. So we'll just do a quick test. Hit play and zoom in and zoom out. Zoom in and zoom out. Okay. Very nice. And lastly, we want some horizontal movement. So for this, we'll do a mouse X and mouse events here, mouse X. And we'll do a branch. And we'll check, should we rotate or can we rotate? Okay. We then want to grab our arm again and do set world rotation, like so. And we want to get our arm again and do get world rotation. And we want to do a node called combine rotators. The return value goes in here and we split this B value. We get our axis value and we multiply this. Now, this is the speed at which you rotate, up to you. I like -4, so that's what I'll do. And this will go to our Z axis, like so. And we can comment our code, horizontal movement. And let's bubble it. This as well, and this as well. So we zoom out, we actually see what's on the screen. Nice and tidy. Okay, and I believe this should be everything. So let's compile and save it and hit play. And if we go into here, perfect, we can rotate and zoom out, in and out. Okay, very nice. So with that said, this will be for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. And as always, happy developing.